Welcome to CIT 105, Louisville Urban League, JCTC Workforce Solutions Department, CIT 105, Intro to Computers. And so for today, what we're going to do is go through your final unit. So going into Blackboard, and your final unit on there is going to be the Construct Simple Documents unit. And this is probably the one that you're most familiar with, Microsoft Word. So it's number 6 in the list of modules on Blackboard. So you should see, once you expand the folder, you should see the instructional documents as normal. You're going to also see your Construct Simple Documents voice thread is ready, where you will have a more involved sort of orientation to this folder. So you're going to cover words chapter 2, 3, 4, and 5. Word chapter 1 is very simple in the sense of you're just putting text into a document, you're selecting the text, you're copying it, you're pasting it. Those things most people are very familiar with already. And so that's why we kind of skip over Word chapter 1 and go straight into Word chapter 2, which is formatting text and paragraphs. And that's really where the magic happens in Microsoft Word. All right, so of course you have your Ask a Document questions discussion forum and your learner's exit slip for this module as well. And then you also have the finish here, which your finish here area is where you're going to have a final document that you have to create, and it is a one-page document. So you want to give it a lot of thought before you just start typing, because it can definitely run over one page. But to get the full credit for that final, in lieu of a final exam, you just have a final paper to do. And so that would be located in the finish here area. Like we had a start here area, we have a finish here. And so everything is already available for you. The final, after this class, you also have the ability to get into SimNet away from Blackboard. You can go to SimNet lifelong. It's a lifelong learning tool. So I do provide you with that information inside your final voice thread. So you definitely want to watch that final voice thread. So let me go ahead and start up Microsoft Word, and I'm just going to do a simple search and get on the best match list. Of course, it may already be on your start menu. However you launch Microsoft Word, you can do that. Okay. Now, as we discussed with when we started with Access, Access is the only Microsoft 365 app that actually has you to name the file initially. All the rest of them, you can start working in, the file without necessarily saving it up front, but Access makes you save it up front. Okay, so we're just here on the templates page in Microsoft Word. I'm going to select more templates. Of course, you can get a list of the templates that are already sort of installed with with the software. Now you can do a search for online templates, which is a more vast database of different templates for Microsoft Word. And of course, you have the suggested searches down here. So say, for instance, if I wanted to do a resume or a cover letter, I just simply select resumes and cover letters. And then it's going to go out to Microsoft's database and pull in examples that organizations all over the globe have sort of, donated to Microsoft to use as templates. Of course, Microsoft does all the pre-screening, so to make sure that there's no viruses or anything in the templates. Okay, so you don't have to worry about that when you use the templates. But it is quite a vast list of templates in each category, not just the resumes and cover letters. Okay, so basically you just go through and pick the one that you like, and from the one that you like, select create. And once you select create, it basically brings it into your active window of Microsoft Word, where you can just start filling in your own personal information. Then you have what is something quite new with Microsoft Word is the ability to use the resume assistant. As you can see here, it says powered by LinkedIn. And I do believe, if I'm not mistaken, that Microsoft purchased LinkedIn. So that's why they're so, easily able to integrate LinkedIn into their apps. Okay. So, and that's what software companies do. They don't all necessarily, have these developers that are on staff developing everything from scratch. What they typically will do is, if they can come up with a concept to extend the capabilities of their software, they will purchase that entity and find a way to integrate it to do just that, extend the capabilities that are currently in there. So you basically, it's like a wizard that you experienced in Microsoft Access, where you select get started, and it kind of walks you through how to construct an effective resume. Okay. And so, you can use it. You don't have to use it. It does have its own little close button here. So it's up to you, basically, whether or not you want to use it. So I'm just going to go to a new document. Now I'm going to use some what are called keyboard shortcuts. Now, all of these Microsoft 365 apps are, chock full of keyboard shortcuts. Okay, and that's really how you're going to become more efficient, is if you learn the keyboard shortcuts. And so inside the voice thread for the Construct Simple Documents, I do provide you with a list of some of the more common, keyboard shortcuts. I think, that they would probably help you out the most with those. So I'm simply going to use Control N. So holding down the Control key and then striking the N key on the keyboard one time basically opens up a brand new document. Okay, so Control plus the N key. Okay. So this gives me a brand new canvas from which to start. So we're simply just going to go through and take a look at what's available. So as with all of the other applications, Microsoft Word's home ribbon is the most commonly used features, okay, or commands that Microsoft Word users employ. So you're going to find the cut, copy, paste here in the clipboard group. In the font group, any kind of bold, italics, underline, any coloring of the letters, highlighting, uppercase, lowercase, sentence case, I mean, there's all sorts of examples here. Even strike through is available here. This one here is subscript. This is superscript. So, so if you're used to the word ordinals, then you know what that means. So basically, and I'm going to go through it with you. If I was to type in first, you see how it doesn't necessarily automatically take the ST and make it superscript. So you have to adjust that in your backstage view, and we'll do that momentarily. But you can, if you wanted to automatically do that, you certainly can do it, or you could use the superscript here. Let's see. And it will go to the superscript setting. And I believe I heard someone in the waiting in the lobby. And so,
right.
Okay.
Correct.
So we're
okay. Well, I had you down that you were doing a computer class through the Louisville Urban League with JCTC with Professor Jacobs, and so that's why I was wanting to call and touch base with you. So.
Oh no, I haven't done nothing through an urban league for.
Okay, so I just had to put Greg on mute, so I do apologize. So, alrighty, so you can do the superscript here, but if you want it to automatically do it, then basically you have to go to the file backstage view and get into the options. So the options basically, you would go into, I believe it's proofing, yes, and then select autocorrect options here. And then you have all of these different things that you can get it to do for you automatically. And you want to go into the auto format as you type. And here you will see ordinals first with superscript. So if I check this, okay, and click OK and click OK again, when I go to a document and I type in, let's say for instance, third, as soon as I tap on the space key, it's going to automatically, or it should, there it went, automatically change from regular text to superscript. So that little checkbox, in the auto format as you type will actually do that. But you have to get into backstage view and then click on options, proofing, and then autocorrect and auto format as you type. So all of these are different tabs here, okay? And the ordinals first with superscript was not checked. So that's why it wasn't automatically converting it for us. Okay. Now the same thing with the autocorrect. So let's say, for instance, each person who types, and Word is a typist's dream or nightmare. But when you type a lot, everyone has their own, keys that kind of give them trouble. Okay. And mine vary. It just depends on what part of the year. So if I'm not using, if I'm not doing a lot of typing, say for instance in the summer, I typically will, have issues with the right side of the keyboard. Why? I don't know. I'm guessing it's because, I'm right-handed. I'm not for sure, but like letters like P, L, O, I sometimes will have to look. Although I've been typing for over 30 years, sometimes I have issues. So let's say, for instance, if there was a word that I knew that I was going to have a problem with at some point, I could just type it in. So sometimes it may be, I'm going to do, sometimes I'll get it, backwards. And so instead of soil, I will sometimes type OLIS. Okay. So what this says is if I type in OLIS at any part of the year, it's going to automatically convert it to soil. Okay. So you can do that. It already has a list of them that are sort of common mistakes that people make. But to make this sort of be part of my autocorrect, my personal autocorrect, I could then click add. Okay, so then it'll go on the list. So you can see some of the others, like the word other. Some people do the H before the T. Okay. And another one that I commonly will mess up on sometimes is just the simple word the or the. Okay, sometimes I will type in TEH. And so that's already on the list. So if it's in the replace and then with THE instead. So it'll automatically correct any kind of, any of the common words that you misspell. Okay, but you have to actually put them in for yourself. But there is already a list of them, that come with the software, but you can add your own. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. So let me try OLIS space, and it's going to automatically convert it to soil. All right, so you just get in there and play around with it. As you become more familiar with your own mistakes, then you'll be able to see how you could use that autocorrect feature. Okay, so it's different for every single user. All right, so the paragraph group. This is basically where you would do any sort of bulleted lists, whether that was the actual bullets themselves, the graphic bullets, or the numbering bullets. Okay, so there are different types of bullets that you can have. And then you have the multi-level lists, which is basically still bullets, but it gives you different bullets depending upon the indentation that is used. Okay, so you get to see some examples here. Okay, and most often you would see this, say for instance, on a table of contents or something like that. Multi-level lists. All right, and here's the indentation. And so let me make sure I see someone typing. Oh, okay. All right. So the indentation here, this would be to decrease the indent. So how you would normally increase an indent, of course, would be to use your tab key. So the tab key on your keyboard, that basically increases the indent. And then if you want to decrease the indent, you just simply click decrease. Okay. But the multi-level list already comes sort of done for you. You just have to make sure, that you're using the tab key. Okay. Then this one here is sort. So say for instance, if you had a bunch of words. Okay, and you wanted these words in your document to be in alphabetical order, you would just simply select those and then use the sort, and you would basically tell it in what order you wanted it to be sorted. So ascending would be from A to Z, descending would be from Z to A. Okay, so I want to sort by paragraph, that just means by line, okay, the text, and then I'm going to put it in ascending order. So it's going to put it in alphabetical order from A to Z. Click OK. And now automatically you see that it's in alphabetical order. Okay. Are there any questions with anything that's been presented so far?
No.
Okay. All right. And so you also have on this bottom row here all of your justifications. So you have your align left, which is the default setting. Then you have your center, your align right, and then you have your justify. Justify is used most often when you're writing like a newsletter or newspaper, basically to provide the spacing on a line so everything is sort of fills up that space for that newsletter or that newspaper. So that's basically what justify is used for. Then we have the line and paragraph spacing, and I would say probably this is where you're probably going to get lots of dividends out of Microsoft Word with this feature, because this is where you would set the double spacing. Of course, you can have more than 3 spaces in a document, right? By going into the line spacing options, but these are the most commonly used line spacing options that are listed here. But you can definitely go into line spacing options and actually add more space. Okay. And also by going into that line spacing options, you have the ability to set your tabs. Okay. Your tab stops. So wherever you use your tab key, those are considered to be tab stops. So if you have a particular document that you're using and you already know that, the company you work for, they have a certain, way to construct documents. They have, certain tab stops that they need you to hit, on their documents. This is how you would set it up. Okay, so just by clicking on tabs, and then you would put the tab position in and tell if it's a left alignment or right alignment or center alignment. Okay, now this leader here, this is typically what you would see on, say for instance, a table of contents. So you know how when you list something on the left of a table of contents and then on the right you have the page number, right, that particular object or subject can be found in your document. So the leader is basically saying, what do you want the middle portion to look like between the topic and the page number? So most often it is either dashes or periods. Okay, so here number 2 is the periods all across. Number 3 is the dashes. Number 4 is the underline. So you determine how you want it to look. And of course, the default setting is none. All right. But let's say, for instance, if I wanted to set something up like 5 here, right? And then I want the leader to be number 2. Okay, then I would click on set and then okay. Let me find a line here. Yeah, that's not going to do it today. My computer's been acting really, really bizarre today. So I'm hoping that it's temporary, but I may need to get me a new one. But so typically what would happen is if I were to use, the tab key, it would basically fill it in with, with periods and then, give me, room for whatever I wanted to the right. Okay, but typically you would see this kind of setup in a table of contents. Okay, then you have the fill or shading, that little bucket there where you get to choose colors. And whenever you see the bucket, that just means the background. Okay, not the letters themselves. The letters themselves would be over here in the font group, and you see an actual letter on top of a color. And so that's how you would change the actual color of words versus the background. And you kind of see it on screen there. Okay. Then you have also in the paragraph group, you have the borders. You have an arrow here that gives you all the different types of borders. So typically when I use borders, I will use borders in the header of a document or borders in the footer of a document, but you can certainly use it in other parts of a document as well. So sometimes if you go into the header area, how I did that was I just double clicked at the very top of the document. Okay. And typically what you would do is you would come back over here and find the border that you want it to appear. And typically that's going to be a bottom border, okay, so that you can type above it. And so, and then once I close out of that header area, I can see that clearly there's a line there. Okay, so if you could imagine constructing documents and having that area at the header to be able to use for whatever you want. So that's the same thing that I did with the class syllabus. So I just typed in CIT 105 class syllabus and I put a border. Okay, and you can actually determine, what size of a border that you want. Simply by going into borders and shading. And then the width of the border. So up to 6 points, you can kind of construct that. Okay, so let me go back in here. And
it didn't change though.
Yeah, because I was outside of the header area.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm going to change it now. Click OK. Well, let me remove it first. I'm going to click no border. Let me get out of it. Okay, go back into it. Borders and shading. And I'm going to select 6 here. And you can also change the style of it as well. Well, yeah, I'm just wanting a bottom border. So let me get out of that. Okay, bottom border. And you see how it's thick? So I just did that by going to the width in the borders and shadings option. When I double click out of it, I can, see that the line is thicker than it would normally be. Okay. So some of these things you just have to kind of play around with. Now in the styles group, you have basically pre-formatted styles for this. Normal is normally in a document when a document first comes up. this is the setting for just a normal document. Okay. Heading would be if you needed to draw emphasis on some text in a document, right? So there's heading style 1, heading style 2, then you have title, okay, subtitle, which is going to be a little bit smaller, well, actually a lot smaller. If you need to draw emphasis on anything, which is typically a little bold and maybe even italics as well. Then you have intense emphasis, which may be a, different color. So there's different kinds of styles, and you can create your own styles as well. But these are, the ones that are more commonly used. So typically what appears on a ribbon is the more commonly used aspect of those settings, but you certainly have the ability to set it up however you want, for yourself. Okay. Now, the find, replace, and select. Of course, if you need to find something in the document, you would just simply click on find and do a keyword or key phrase search. The replace would be, yes, you're finding it, but what are you wanting to replace it with? So let's say, for instance, I wanted to find CTRL, okay, throughout the document. And I want to say whatever I find with CTR or it finds with CTRL in the document, I want it to replace it with ALT. Okay. And then I would select replace all. And then it'll confirm with you, hey, we're finished, and this is how many were replaced. Click OK, close, and it's done. Of course, you still have the ability to undo. Okay. It's up to you. And that's just pretty much it. Now, you also have the select, okay? So you could do select all, which is keyboard shortcut Control A, or just your regular, mouse pointer that can select objects. Now, there are different types of ways that you can select. Of course, you can click on things and drag through, okay? Or you could come out to the right margin, okay, and select or click one time and it selects that entire line. You could go in, say for instance, if you had, I'm going to make an example here. Okay, so let's say for instance, if you wanted to select everything on this line, but you didn't necessarily want to click and drag through to the end, you could actually click, you could do one click, double click, okay, so it's like a triple click. So 1, 2, 3, all in a row, basically we'll select everything on that line, okay. Now, when you look at that, it seems, really, really easy, but I'm going to go up here in the paragraph group and I'm going to select the show all or show hide. And it also selects the paragraph mark at the end of the line. So if you don't want to include the paragraph mark, you definitely can use your keyboard to correct that just by using Shift and the back arrow. Go back one to not include that paragraph mark. Okay. Now, we've talked about this before with some of the newer things that are in the apps. Of course, Dictate is not necessarily new anymore, but it may be new to some people. So you have the ability now to dictate papers. So let's say, for instance, you got home from work and you didn't feel like typing out, this paper that you needed to complete. Of course, you could talk it out using the dictate feature and then go back and just make adjustments. Okay, so basically if I were to select dictate here, everything that I'm speaking, it would appear on the page. So it's basically listening to everything that you say. And then once I click the little red button on dictate, that stops it. Okay. So everything that I just spoke appears there in the document, and then you can, make adjustments from there. Now the editor is fairly new, but some of the editing features have been used for years, such as the red wavy or squiggly lines that pick up misspelled words. So this is basically, checks for spelling, grammar, and any writing suggestions. So, and this is going to be the formal writing suggestions for, the formal English language. Okay, so I would take the suggestions on here. So this is kind of like what Grammarly does, if you've ever heard of Grammarly. Grammarly looks for, any grammatical issues that you have in your documents and offers suggestions. So that is sort of built right into Microsoft Word now. Okay. Now the insert tab, this is where you would want to insert objects, basically. So if you needed to insert, say for instance, a blank page or a page break, basically you needed more than one page in your document and you needed it to end quickly, then you would select page break. Okay. If you wanted to insert a table, you certainly can click on this and then select how many columns and rows. So this would be a 4-column, a 4-row table. And then you just simply select it and it automatically puts it into your document. From there, you do get a contextual tab. And that contextual tab basically is listed as table design. So this opens up a whole new, ribbon options basically, where you can tell it exactly how you want your table to look in table styles. Okay, so you can choose how you want it to look, if you needed any shading on anything. Okay, so a lot of this is you just playing around with it and knowing what's there. Of course, the layout to the table, you can insert rows, insert columns, delete rows, delete columns, okay? And you would do that in the rows and columns area. You could align the text in the different cells, okay? That's, completely up to you there. Then of course you do have that A to Z sort. So if you were listing something in a table in Microsoft Word, you could sort them in alphabetical order if you wanted to inside that table. Okay. You can also draw more columns and rows if you're into that sort of thing. So on the end, I just simply, made it connect here. Now you can see that it's kind of looking a little weird, where it's a little thick. So let me click on draw a table here so that I can get into the properties of the table. And I'm just going to right click on that little 4-headed arrow there. And go into table properties. And then remember, we changed the borders and settings, our borders and shading settings. And so let's choose. Well, that didn't help either, did it? I'm trying to figure out where that setting came from, but you should be able to go into the borders and shadings and get rid of that. There's always a way to find out. So I'm just right-clicking on a normal cell just to try to figure out where that setting is coming from. Yeah, it's the right setting. So let's choose. Okay. Make them all none. And then I'm just going to go back and make it all box or all. Click OK. And there is sort of what I drew out. Not for sure why that was showing up like that, but you know, there's always a way around correcting some of the little quirks that happen when you use the draw table feature. Okay. So again, on the insert ribbon, you do have the ability to add any kind of pictures, whether those pictures are installed on your computer, or if they're in a cloud storage account, you can definitely insert those pictures from your computer, okay, or online location. Then of course we have the icons as we had in Excel and PowerPoint as well, where you got to search on the 3D icons, you know, those 3D images. Then you also have shapes, which shapes has been a part of the illustrations in Word probably since the early 2000s. So there's kind of, you know, a long list of different shapes that you can choose from. And then it also has its own drawing canvas where you can, you know, draw your own shapes. The Smart Art, this is different graphics that are already sort of built in. So you have list graphics, process graphics, cycle, hierarchy, relationship, matrix, pyramid, picture. And then you should have some also that are out there on office.com. Okay, if you needed more shapes you wanted to choose from there. Then of course you could insert a chart right into Microsoft Word, and how it works is it basically uses a little snippet of code from Microsoft Excel, and it actually opens up, it looks like an Excel window, but it's really a slimmed down version of Excel, but you can definitely use that right within Microsoft Word. And of course, screenshot, if you wanted to you know, do a screen clipping, you certainly could. Okay. And you just basically select what it was that you want to do a screen clipping of and insert it right into your document.
Now, did you use what's called Snip for that, or was it just through the Word document?
Yeah, it's just through Word. Is screenshot and screen clipping.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The snipping tool on the on HP, I use that.
Yeah. Well, you do have you know, clipping little programs in Windows. You also have them on the web. So they're pretty common. They just built one right inside of Word.
Nice.
So, so I know y'all don't want y'all picture on there. So, okay. But there's a host of other things that you can do. Of course, You can, add media to your document with, online videos from like YouTube, LUL, things like that. Of course, you can provide links. Okay. So there's a whole host of things that you can do. Page numbers, of course, you can add page numbers to your document if you want to do that. Of course, page numbers typically will fall either in the header area or the footer area. So that's why it appears in this header and footer group. Typically, that's where you would find a page number. And there's all kinds of page number like formatting. And if you just click on that little arrow, it'll show you an example of where it would appear in the list. Okay. You can also add text boxes and word art. Okay. This always intrigues students. So basically it gives you a text box and you basically provide the words in there, and then it's part of your document. Okay. All of that is on your insert ribbon and in the text group. You also have symbols that you can add. So there's a whole host of symbols that have been a part of Microsoft Word probably, oh gosh, I can't even think back to when those were added, probably the late 90s. But there are all kinds of symbols, and you get to change the font type here, and even more symbols will appear. Okay, so sometimes just taking a moment to go through some of them and seeing, what kind of symbols are out there. I was on initially Wingdings, and that is the one that gives you like images of phones and mailboxes and floppy diskettes. Okay, so, and there are several Wingdings, scissors, check boxes with a check mark or an X. So you could insert those right into your document just by clicking on the one that you like and clicking insert. And close, and here it is right here underneath the table.
How do you you know how you did that, but how do you make it to where you click it and an X already pops up in there? You know what I'm talking about? You know how if you sign a document online and they want you to check it, how do you make a checkbox on here?
Yeah, well, that's a little far advanced than intro to computers, okay. But you can definitely do that, and I'll show you really quick since you asked. Now up here you have the standard tabs, okay, that are in
that where it says presenting. Thank you.
Oh, okay, sorry. Up here you have all of your different tabs, right? Well, all of them are not present. Okay, all that are available are not present. So you could go back to the backstage view, click on more and options, and then you would go to customize ribbon. Okay, there is a tab that is missing, and that is the developer tab. If you click there to get a check mark in there and click OK, now it appears, and you can add your own check mark or checkbox. Okay, so in the controls group, you have the checkbox content control, and you simply add it there, and you can put some text next to it. Check for yes, okay, to instruct the user how to use it. And then once, say for instance, if they wanted to check it, they would just simply come there and it would put the X.
Thank you. I always wondered how to do that. Thank you.
Yeah, you just have to turn on developer.
Okay. Thank you.
Great question. Yeah, we teach that in some other, intermediate or more advanced skills in the CIT 130, which is the class right after this one. So where we leave off typically at chapter 4, CIT 130 picks up at chapter 5, okay, on SimNet. So you learn more advanced features of, of using these applications. All right. Any other questions? Any questions about what we've seen so far?
Not really.
Okay. And, becoming more familiar with all of these things is really only how, is the only way that you're going to learn it. Like I could spend 8 weeks demonstrating all of this to you, but until you use it yourself, it's not going to stick. Okay. So just exploring one day, just pick a tab and explore, see what it does. Okay. Now we've already went through the draw in the other applications. So I won't waste your time on that one. But under the design tab and on the design ribbon, you have the watermark feature. And basically what you're doing is adding ghost text. It's there just sort of as a placeholder. So say for instance, if you got a document and you know it's not a finished document, you could write draft on, as a watermark, but you could still see the contents of the document, but, it would list that it's a draft. So it appears kind of like what confidential appears like this, but you would go into custom watermark and you would type the word draft into the text watermark area, and where you see ASAP, you would type in draft. Okay. When I click OK, and it's semi-transparent, you see that's checked there. When you click OK, then draft appears in the middle of the document, okay, basically saying that it's not a finished work yet, if that makes sense, okay. And so you can do, you can pretty much put any words in there. So you could put your initials in there if you wanted to, okay. You could also change the border of the pages themselves in your document just by clicking on page borders. Okay. And then there's a new little feature down here when you do page borders, and it says art. So if you click and drag through, you see all sorts of different little art symbols. Okay, stars, and there's even one that has like what is that thing called? Like a little push pin, okay, on the page. When you click OK, then the little pin mark will show in the top left corner of the document. Let me make it a little bit bigger so you can see it. And I know there's a name for those, but I don't use them often, so
tax, dub tax.
There you go. And so I wish it was where you could actually change the color of it, but they haven't gotten that far yet. But you go into page borders and then art to find specific, designs that you want on your page. So that's pretty cool.
Oh, that is cool. Kindergarten teacher uses that. It is so cute.
Anything to grab your attention.
Yeah.
I like a nice
A nice little
for
flyer.
the bake sale.
Yeah, for the bake sale.
Yeah. Okay, and then you have the layout area. This is where you would be able to adjust your margins. Okay, typically you do have like a normal setting of 1-inch margins all around the document. But you can also, I use narrow quite a bit because it allows you to get more on the page. Some students are very ingenious and will do papers where they make the margins larger, but your instructors know. But you have moderate, wide. You have all sorts of margin settings. Excuse me. Then you could do custom margins where you can set up your own margin for your document. Okay. You also have the page orientation, which that you have two options. The portrait is a standard document, like 8.5 by 11, and then the landscape would be the 11 by 8.5. Okay, so it would just basically flip it on its side. Okay. Then you have different types of documents, different sizes that you could choose. Of course, you could have documents that have columns, like doing a newsletter or newspaper kind of setting. Okay, so there's all sorts of things here in Word for you to use. The references tab, basically, this is where if you have a paper that you need to do and the paper calls for you to do it in MLA or APA, then this is where you would go to do that. Those are already sort of built in to Microsoft Word. And so in the citations and bibliography area, you would just choose the type of document that you have to construct. Okay, so MLA is on here, APA, those are the two most commonly used ones, but we see Harvard has their own. Okay. And there are a lot of other ones listed there as well. So basically it helps you to set up a bibliography. It basically helps you to know what you should cite on a bibliography or a works cited page. So, that's what references is really the most helpful for beginning users. Okay. Mailings, a little bit, more advanced, but I think everyone should know how to do a mail merge. And so basically what a mail merge is let's say you have 100 people that you want to invite to an event. Instead of creating 100 individual documents, okay, with those 100 individual people, their address on it, you would create one document, okay? And on that one document, you would have an area specifically for their name, their address, their city, state, zip, okay? And this is what a mail merge allows you to do. It allows you to merge a data source, which is kind of like creating a table. And you would have field names like first name, middle initial, last name, street address, city, state, zip. And then you would merge that with your letter and it would automatically basically generate all of those different documents for you instead of you having to create individual documents. Okay, so that's what the mail merge is all about. Review, as we know, there are some new features in all of these Microsoft 365 apps. Of course, if you have a very long document, maybe from one of your instructors or from, a colleague or an acquaintance, and you'd rather not, read it, maybe you want it read aloud to you, you can certainly use that read aloud or read aloud option in the speech group. Okay, basically you would select all and get it to read aloud. You also have a thesaurus and a word count. So let's say, for instance, you're constructing a document and your professor said, I need this document to be 10,000 words. How would you know unless you are counting individual words, right? That's tedious. So instead, you would use the word count. Word count also comes on your status bar, which is just above your taskbar. All right. And it tells you how many words are in the document down here. That's your word count. Okay. Now, it used to be when I was in college, we didn't have the word count. Okay.
What?
We had to actually, yeah, this was 30 years ago. So we had to actually count our words. Okay. And we didn't have one textbook for our classes either. We had like 5, depending upon what that professor wanted. Okay.
No.
Okay. Yeah. So the thesaurus just basically gives you alternative words. So let's say, for instance, you're reading through your document and you find that you're using the same word over and over. And, that may not look good to certain people to use the same words over and over. Just use this thesaurus and change the word. Okay. It just gives you, other words that have the same exact meaning, but, it does sort of break the monotony a little bit. Okay.
Do you remember the paperclip?
Say it again.
Do you remember the paperclip back in the day that used to like talk to you, tell you how to do stuff?
He's like, can I?
Clippy.
Yeah, Clippy.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember. They're talking about putting them back in there.
That would be
They
great.
should.
They definitely should.
Yeah.
I don't want Cortana. I'm like, I don't use Cortana. I want Clippy back.
Yeah. 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 They're talking about it, so who knows? I think people liked it, so.
Oh, yeah.
He seemed very helpful.
And he was so sweet.
He's so sweet. I will use it. I've literally never used Cortana once. I know how to use her, but it's giving me AI, iRobot vibes. I'm not really with it.
Yeah.
Right, I hear you.
Clippy was straightforward. He was a man for the people.
Woo!
I hear you. Okay, so on your view ribbon, you have probably straightforward things that you can use here. I would say probably the most useful would be in the show group. So say, for instance, if your ruler ever disappeared, okay, that means someone came and unchecked it. Here on the view in the show group, and you see how the ribbon, both horizontal and vertical, disappeared. You simply check it to bring it back. Okay. Your navigation pane is, say, for instance, when you want to search through the document or find something in your document. Okay. Grid lines, just basically, if you're one of those folks that, need to see it in a different way, you can certainly, use grid lines, but the grid lines don't print. So there's really no use for it. It's just, a background sort of thing to help you to align things. Okay, especially if you're working with graphics or images. Okay. And like all the other help systems, you have the ability to search by keyword or key phrase in the Microsoft Word help system. Show any video training. Again, the videos are not talking to you. It's just on-screen, demonstrations. And of course, the what's new area. So the latest and greatest updates to the software would be in the what's new area. And as you can see, the newest thing is the editor. Okay. And then of course you can select learn more here. And it'll give you more information about the editor. Okay. You could also give Microsoft feedback if, say, for instance, something that you thought that, you were using and it didn't work as you thought it should, then that's the time to give them feedback. Also, with Clippy, if you want Clippy back, provide them with feedback about, you really enjoyed that feature. And so that's a way to report that directly to them. And so evidently they have a really highly interactive platform for the help system. And this is how not only beta users, before the software actually gets to the public, they use, but people are starting to be real voiceful. I guess it's because people have nothing else to do during the pandemic. And so, so I've heard through the grapevine, Microsoft grapevine, that people have been asking for Clippy to come back. So, so we'll see how that goes. But do you all have any questions? Anything that I can answer today?
Yes. So when I was turning my project, you know how I had to do the PowerPoint, okay? And then like question, I don't know what number it was, whatever. It was like add notes. So I added the notes, but somehow it wouldn't count on the project. But every time I went on there, it was on the notes. It was on there. So I'm not sure what happened for that one.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you basically added notes to
Slide 4.
a particular slide. Did you save it?
Yes.
Okay. Just shoot me an email.
Okay.
Sherry.jacob@kctcs.edu and tell me what project it was for, and I'll check your file and see, what possibly could have happened there. Now, did it tell you to save the note, or did it tell you to close without saving?
No, because I saved it because I didn't auto save because I was like my computer like shuts down sometimes. So I auto saved it, but it wouldn't save it. So I wasn't sure what was going on because I used PowerPoint once before, but I was confused on why it didn't save.
Yeah, no clue. Just send me an email, and I can, whatever you upload on SimNet, I can actually see that file that you uploaded. So you don't have to send me your file. Just send me an email, tell me what project it was for, and what issue you were having, and I'll take a look at it.
Cool, thank you. And the quiz is due this Saturday, right?
Quiz for PowerPoint. Yeah, I extended it. And it's this Friday, I believe. Is it Friday?
No, it's the 28th.
It's her last day of class.
Sunday. Yeah, I made it the Sunday.
And then our last day of class is going to be, hold on.
The 3rd.
Okay.
So the 3rd of September.
That is next week.
Or is it next week?
That is next week.
Next week. Mm-hmm.
And then you want all.
Does she teach
Sorry.
another class?
You want all the sim that's done, everything else done. And do you teach the next class we're gonna take?
It depends on what that class is. I heard some rumblings about another class, which would be the hardware and software class, but I haven't heard any final details about that yet. So if you've heard something about a hardware and software class, then maybe.
They reposted it online. I know on Louisville Urban League, they took it away because I was looking at it mid-class when I was asking you about it. But then I think probably very extremely recently, they reposted about it on the website. Now it doesn't have a start date, but it does say it starts in September. So I was like, okay, well,
Yeah, see, I haven't gotten any of that information yet. The last thing I heard was October.
Okay.
So, but I haven't heard for sure.
Well,
So
see you again.
I know,
yeah.
right?
That was great, Professor.
Bless your heart. But if you guys have any questions at all, Troy and I are here to assist you as always. We want to see you pass and do well. So let us know how we can help you.
Yes, ma'am.
Will do. Yes, ma'am.
All righty. Okay, well, thank you. And I guess I'll go ahead and end the recording. Do you have any additional questions or concerns?
I don't think so. Tell me
No.
right now.
Okay. All righty. Well, you all have a good one.